Hello and welcome to the first Purely Flowing podcast episode of 2025. I'm really excited to be back. I'm Adele. I'm founder of Pure Flow State, and we specialize in sustainable brand strategy for purpose-led businesses. Now, the name Pure Flow State comes from the concept of flow state, which was coined by an Hungarian-American psychologist named Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi to describe a time where you're so engrossed in the present moment that you enter into a timeless bliss and you could do whatever it is you're doing forever. So we like to help brands achieve that state of flow where everything works, everything is aligned inside and out so that they can make the impact that they desire. And these conversations on the podcast are all about talking to entrepreneurs and friends about their experience of flow state and how that's affected their lives in their business and the personal aspect as well. And we're here to share some stories to inspire and for people to learn a little bit about what others do and their experience of business and life, and bring a little bit of inspiration to everybody on a Friday. And I'm really excited to kick off this year with a very exciting guest who is Masami Sato. She is the co-founder of B1G1, Buy One, Give One, which is an organization that helps businesses give impact. And they've created this incredible platform. I'm a member and really proud one to be part of the Masami story, which you're going to hear a little bit about in a moment, which is nothing short of astounding, and certainly a lot of inspiration there. So they've been going and growing for 17 years now and have made over 300 million impacts. Is that right, Masami?
Yes. Yeah. So today you will see like about 365 million impacts, and these impacts are tangible and measurable improvement made on the lives of people and the environment around the world as well. So we are very fortunate and gifted in the opportunity to work with some amazing, inspiring business people and leaders to make these things happen around the world.
Yeah. And I love the whole vision that B1G1 encapsulates is to create a world full of giving where every business transaction can be an opportunity to give some positive change. So we're going to be looking at the power of small today and how tiny little things can change your perspective and create a ripple of global change in the world. It's not about big giving. It's not all about, the big brands have a responsibility to do this, but the little ones can get involved too. And that's what I love about the whole concept of B1G1, because it's so inclusive for everybody. So Masami, talk us through, you have an incredible story. I've heard it before. I never tire of hearing it. Tell us a little bit about your background and what led you to create B1G1. And I think we're going to hear in that time a little bit about when you were out of flow and getting into the flow that you're in now.
Yeah, I think the concept of flow is interesting, and we all have a different journey of getting there and staying there as well. When growing up, I was in Japan, and I don't think I really understood the fact that we all had actually the opportunity to live, our lives in flow and stuff like that, because I did feel that I didn't fit, where I was growing up. And I was very shy. I didn't know how to express myself. I didn't believe in myself. I always worried about not upsetting others or trying to fit in, but felt not fitting in. So that was me in my childhood. So I was very quiet, and I didn't really know why I was here even. But what happened was I had the opportunity to spend my childhood partly with my grandparents who had a small family business in Tokyo, in Japan. And because my parents were very busy working parents and they were never home, and I really didn't have so much time within my own family. So for me, like being able to spend the school holiday with my grandparents and helping them run this business was the place where I actually started to really feel curious about what was going on, and I was making sense of all the things that we were doing. Right, like so. Then when I finished studying in Japan, I decided that actually I wanted to spend the time experiencing what was out there rather than going on the path that everybody else went, which was to find a job and dedicate yourself to fix the job for the rest of your life, right? So I became a backpacker and then traveled around the world, and I really suddenly realized that what I knew or what I thought I knew about myself and about my world was actually different from what I was seeing at that time. So I kind of got really, almost addicted to keep discovering all the new things in the world. And that was when I started to really enjoy connecting for the first time, because I let go of the expectation of myself to try to say the right thing or do the right thing, because I just didn't know how to communicate with people in the right way in the new environment where I didn't even speak the language wherever I went. So being really vulnerable and letting go of all of the expectation, then I started to discover that actually we had so much in common wherever I went, and I always found people who were extremely generous and kind and helpful. So so that's my initial self-discovery of experiencing the world. And then eventually later on, I became an entrepreneur and started a business, and that led me to the current work B121.
I think just going back right to the start there and hearing how, when you were growing up, you felt that you didn't fit in. I think a lot of people can resonate with that. It's a tough time at school. The playground's a really tough place to be. And, when we feel that we don't fit in there, we can get trapped in the idea that, okay, well, this is just our lot and this is just the way things are. And I think that probably just that led you to want to go and discover new things and find somewhere where you felt that you did fit in. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. Growing up, you perhaps not quite find your place, but then not everybody becomes that seeker of finding the place. And it was probably quite subconscious, wasn't it, that desire to just keep traveling until you found your place. And it turns out that your place was not in one place, but all over the world, in fact, which has now led you to create this whole global initiative that does incorporate absolutely all of the world. So I really love the idea of that inclusivity, which is something that comes through in what you do today. So you started your travels in Canada, I believe, and then you moved over to New Zealand. So let's talk a little bit about your entrepreneurship journey. Perhaps that was something that, you didn't want to be boxed in one particular job, doing the same thing for the rest of your life. And entrepreneurship just allows for so much creativity, doesn't it? And exploring and trying new things. What were the things that you tried in entrepreneurship when you first got going?
Well, because of my earlier experience being surrounded by family business environment, right? That's why I didn't have a hesitation to become an entrepreneur, but I also didn't have a very strong desire to do start a business either. So what actually really took me to that thought was actually the travel experience. So when I was backpacking and experiencing the world, and sometimes I was in so-called developed countries, like Canada, New Zealand, like where many people had at least enough to live with. But I also spend the time in other parts of the world where different reality existed, such as young children actually working and not going to school because that's how it was for them. Like I met many street kids too, and the people with challenges and disability not having access to proper support or even like very basic resources. And so when I saw that, and because I was really immersed in connecting with people, right? Like, so I actually even got invited to eat with the families, or they took me in to stay, or and where I went, where I saw there's such limited need, like resources available for people, but they were just so generous in sharing those things with me. I really questioned about my life's purpose a lot more. And I also questioned why certain things were happening in the world. Because I thought that if the same thing happened in my country or in my community, then surely there was something that government or people would have done to help people. But then in so many parts of the world, unimaginable reality was accepted as the norm. And then at the same time, in the countries where material resources were quite sufficient and plenty, but I still saw and met and connected with people who didn't feel fulfilled and so happy, right? Like, so then that kind of conundrum of why are we doing all of this to try to get more things, where having more things didn't necessarily directly result in greater joy and happiness.
No. Absolutely. We see that more than ever today, don't we?
Yeah. So I had all that questions, right? Like, but because I was little me and I didn't know how to deal with that, how to solve problem or how to actually help everybody. So I just decided to keep going at that time. But then a few years later, I became a mom almost accidentally, because I never planned to have kids and planned to have my own family, because I felt that based on my younger experience, I thought that having more people in the world may not be creating more joy, like, because I didn't feel fulfilled in my childhood, right? And felt like insecure and not so connected. So I thought like, I just get by and try not to create too much harm in the world. So that was kind of like my focus. But then when I actually became a mom, even though it wasn't a plan, suddenly my world totally changed, because suddenly in your arms, there's this little life where you felt totally connected and committed to. And I thought I would do anything to make sure this little life is going to be safe and happy and fulfilled, have a fulfilling life. So I just felt totally connected, totally in love. And in that moment of total connection, suddenly I started to see almost like faces of other kids in the world. And I thought, oh my gosh, like this little baby happened to be born here, and I'm here 100% committed to protect her. But what about the other kids? And so that was like a totally life-changing moment for me, because I then realized that actually, even though I don't know how to solve all of the problems in the world, I had to do something. I felt I had to do something other than to take care of my own direct family.
That's an incredible amount of empathy that you have there, not just for your own circle, but that ripples out beyond your own circle. Because it's, I'm a mum myself. I know what it's like when you have a baby, and like it's an incredible moment. And in fact, I was talking to my daughter this week, and she's now training to be a nurse, and she was going into some training around midwifery and maternity. And she said to me, look, can we just like stop here a minute, and can I just congratulate you for actually giving birth? It's a huge thing. And she started to understand like the physical sides of giving birth, and that doesn't even go into the emotional sides, because you can't describe that until you've actually been through it. So it's a very absorbing time where one day runs into the next, you're not quite sure where you are. For you to be thinking of outside of that little bubble, I'm in huge admiration of this empathy that you have that spreads outside. Where do you think that comes from?
I think because at one point of time when I was younger, I felt really disconnected. I felt like I knew the pain of not feeling or not understanding the connection we have with this world, so for me, like my greatest joy in life is to see that the people feel their place in the world. And also because I once thought that, well, actually the problem of the world may be because of the consumerism, and and then at one point of time at one point of time I tried to live life without buying anything, because I thought it's better not to create any harm. So let's live, let's find a way to figure out how I don't create much harm in the world. So I spent 2 years in actually countryside of Japan before I became a mom at that time, and tried to find the way to live totally self-sufficient life, living with farmers and growing food and making everything. So I had that experience, right? But then in the end of that, like at the end of that 2 years, what I actually discovered was something unexpected. And what I actually realized was that actually it's not about what's right and wrong. And it's not about consumerism being bad or anything. It's just that the businesses and commercial activities actually existed to help us all live life of fulfillment and the life of joy and happiness. But then actually there could be a better way to link our ability to initiate these meaningful connections with more holistic and fair opportunities and fulfilling opportunities to nourish people's lives. So if we could actually connect to that, then we don't need to isolate ourselves. We don't need to disconnect. We could all come together, and everybody and every one of us can find the right spot where we totally belong. And so that's why, like, that 2 years of trying to create justice and self-sufficiency actually turned into me feeling totally humble and totally open to the potential, right? Then I became a mom after that. And then I realized that actually becoming an entrepreneur and starting my own business could have been one way for me to take charge of my own opportunity to do something meaningful. And at the same time, I thought that we could give all the profits away to help other kids. And, like provide the kids opportunity to have a nourishing food, access to nutrition, and access to education. So that's why, like, for me, starting a food business at that time, because my passion was food and use food to bring people together. And I did lots of cooking as my profession at that time. So getting into the food business and saying that the proceed from the business and the profit that we create will go toward establishing a way for us to create a positive impact in the world. And that's like was 24 years ago. Then from there it took roughly around 5 or 6 years of business development to come to a point to realize that actually it was really challenging for business owners like us who had growing small to medium-sized businesses to try to do good, because we are always busy. We always have reasons not to take time off and then to put all the money and resources back into business to develop.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. So
Yeah,
then
we all get
that
caught
was,
up in
yeah.
that trap, don't we? Like, we're building a business, we're seeing that it's doing well. There's always something more that we could do in the business, isn't there? And oh well, now I can grow in this area. Okay, well now I have this cash flow and I can put it into doing this in the business, and it's a never-ending cycle. And that's just the way it is, isn't it? With businesses, like, and when we desire to grow, we see that whatever it is we're doing is having an impact because it's helping the people that we work with in some way. So why wouldn't we want to kind of put more into that and not, I mean, I talk a lot about brands with purpose and brands making an impact, and brands with purpose are the ones that survive because they have a reason why they're here. They give meaning to all the people that engage with them, no matter what that meaning is. But it has been proven that when people have meaning in what it is that they do, they're much more satisfied and they're happier. And that's a really interesting discovery that you had when you went out and you said, okay, well, I'm just going to take it upon myself not to do any bad and not to contribute to this whole system where we just want more all the time and we're destroying the earth and everything that we're doing. I'm going to remove myself from that cycle. But then that's not fulfilling, because the joy is doing things in community and doing things together. And as humans, we need that interaction, don't we?
Yeah, so totally. And so that was really the moment when I realized that instead of trying to do something big in the future, what about we do something small and do it every day? Because if it's a small thing that we are doing, then we can do it now. We don't need to wait forever, or we don't need to wait until this like future perceived big success as the destination. So the power of small concept of B1G1, buy one, give one, brought the tangible positive action closer to us. And then in our food company, it was the moment I realized that we could give meal, nutrition and meal to a child every time we sold a meal in our business. And at that time, we had this wholesale commercial kitchen where we were producing packaged frozen meals with organic ingredients and allergy friendly. And so we were distributing to lots of other retail stores. And so suddenly, when we shifted our focus to like one day we're going to set up a foundation or we're going to do something big, to today, we can, every time we provide a meal and our team member package, the meal into a packaging, or we send off one meal to a shop and somebody enjoys the meal, then somewhere around the world, the child has access to a meal. And that actually is a part of that child to be encouraged to keep going to school and focus on the study. And that is actually one step forward for the child to get out of poverty and have a great opportunity, right? So that little impact that you can make is really transformative. But then several months later, I realized that actually, instead of trying to do it alone, just to implement this idea in our own business, what if we created the mechanism and the processes and the network and the opportunity for businesses of all types everywhere around the world to do this, then together we can make a different kind of good happen in the world, right? Because every person, every business owner, every leader, every person would have a different desire and focus in what type of impact they want to create. And there are lots of different causes around the world that are doing fantastic things, but they need more help in growing and scaling their impact. So we decided to, at that time, sell our business. At that time, it was in Australia. And then I took 2 little kids of mine to Singapore. And we then started to B1G1 as the global initiative 17 years ago.
Wow, that's incredible. And the small impacts is, I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? That it doesn't have to be huge. And do you think that brands, have a responsibility towards making that impact? And how do you think that affects a brand, and how do you think that is a reflection of each of the brands that work with B1G1?
So it's interesting question because there are multiple elements to that question. Because when we first started B1G1 17 years ago, actually there wasn't much awareness for social responsibility, social impact, sustainability, or anything, right? Like so, but there were still at that time there were businesses that chose to join us and do this. So what motivated them when they weren't even expected to do so was perhaps the human genuine intent and the search for meaning, right? Like, why are we doing this? And every person actually want to do good, because when we were being the kind of best version of us, that's when we feel the best as well. Most motivated, most fulfilled. So in that sense, people have a genuine intent to do good things, right? Like, so there is the element of the benefit for the brand as well to be doing good. And today, actually, in addition to this, actually, doing good is an important element and a strategic part of how we would develop the business that's going to be thriving in the future and in this new time as well. Because nowadays, more and more young people, especially, are looking for opportunities to join and work for companies that have a strong sense of mission and purpose. So just having like a pay package that is a little bit better, or that is no longer enough for companies to continue to attract great talent and then do really great work, right? But also, at the same time, when we can actually blend that the intent, that genuine intent to do good, and empower the leaders of the organizations, or even every individual, or even customers of surrounding the business, to be motivated toward shared goodness, creating collective good, is actually truly beneficial for business, right? Because now you are sharing this opportunity to do something great with everybody surrounding the business. And so that's why, like, a brand to become more socially conscious and sustainable is an important part of growth strategy. It should be, but at the same time, we also think that the concept like ESG or CSR sometimes is bit disconnecting, because the individual little people in the business or customers actually don't really care about kind of like this corporate concept, right? But what they care about is really the stories and really the little things that they can engage and own. So if the impact was embedded in the day-to-day meaningful transactions, actions, and the moments of connections throughout the business. And it doesn't always have to be related to the sales activities, because it could be that today, by having this lovely conversation and having a podcast, maybe every person who listens to the podcast can be part of creating impact. Or every time you have a meaningful meeting or your team completed a project, you could celebrate that by giving the days access to education to a child, or planting one more tree, or providing support to protect the sea turtle. Or so there are so many things that we could be doing to celebrate our meaningful successes in everyday business, or even customer engagement, but with the things that's actually beyond our own personal benefit, which is to make somebody else's life better, or improve our environment together.
Yeah, there's so many things to pick up on what you've just spoken about. And one of the first things I want to draw attention to is the way that you said employees, or people joining a company. It's not about working for a company where there's kind of like a them and an us. Where brands are making impact, it's like people want to join them, and just like customers want to join them as well, because it's a movement that they want to be part of, because they know that good is being done within that space. So that looks at many different aspects that can be a problem for brands, like people leaving, attrition. That's a huge issue for many companies, where people come in and they stay for a bit and then they leave because they've got no reason to stay. But if they feel that they're getting some meaning out of what it is that they're doing, then they're much more likely to stay. So that's a benefit for the business from the start. And just this feeling of acts of service are well known and well documented and well researched in the way that people feel good when they do an act of service, versus just a purchase online or something like that. You might feel good in the moment, but it doesn't give any kind of lasting feeling of benefit. Whereas impact and doing acts of service and knowing that you're doing something good for someone else in the world is something that lasts. And certainly, the brands that are more sustainability aligned, brands that want to make an impact, people now are prepared actually to pay a little bit more for those brands when it's a product, for example. Just knowing, that the clothing has been sustainably sourced, for example, that's something that people are willing to pay a little bit more for, rather than this fast fashion, which you don't know who's making it, you don't know what conditions people are working in to deliver that. There's no, you don't feel good about that. The majority of people don't feel good about that. Going back to the empathy piece and these brands that are more impact driven, do you think that is a really key element to being a great leader, having that empathy?
Yeah, I think that what's required in the leaders have evolved. So 50 years ago, when you look at the leadership program or even MBA program, right? Then primary focus of the leadership was to look at the strategic development, financial, profit maximization, and the performance, right? The measurable performance. And the element of that is still important today too. But what happened is, if you want to create actually longer term success, not the short, just the really short term success, because sometimes if you maximize the short term success so much, then it's actually severely compromise longer term success, such as people leaving, right? So that's one example, because the cost to the business of somebody leaving is massive.
Yes.
But maximizing the profitability on the quarterly basis or monthly basis can be done through some form of hacks. Making decisions that it's not ethical, but it just gives you a quickest return possible, right? So I think in today's world, people are starting to realize that previously known leadership tactics or how the leaders were evaluated were actually acting against the real sustainability and sustainable development of the business in the long run. But another thing is happening in the world, that actually, when more and more businesses are making these short-term decisions, that is actually compromising the entire sustainability of humanity, right? So then eventually, and now it's faster and faster, we are starting to see that negative impact of that coming back to us. And that's going to influence the future of all of our children, not just the children of faraway countries where people are not getting enough wages to have a decent work, but now our children, or the children of quite well-to-do, seemingly well-to-do people too, they were getting impacted by climate change or other kind of issues that was created because of the way we've done things, right? So now here is the opportunity for us to transform this, and it's actually one of the most exciting time ever because of the technology available, because of the leverage that we can use through all sort of opportunities that we never had before, such as AI. Like we could be afraid of the emergence of AI or new technology or social media and connection, or we could actually use these things as opportunity to magnify the compassion and empathy that humans actually can bring into this mix, because then we can magnify and accelerate the human goodness that we can mobilize. And so then resources wise, we don't have such limitation, or opportunity wise, we don't have that limitation. We actually have a maximum potential, bigger potential than ever before to achieve the things and accomplish the things that we want to do. But we just have to put our mind in the right place, which is the position of empathy, because the empathy makes us think differently and think longer term. And also the leaders to be able to make the longer term decisions and to be supported and to be rewarded and be supported by others for that type of leadership, right? So we all have opportunity to change the way that we think in business. And the example could be that we bring family values into business. Because the family is thinking longer term, like they're not thinking about, oh, okay, next month, how am I going to get the maximum benefits out of our kids?
Look at them mowing lawns.
Right, but we are more inclined to make this longer term decisions when we put ourselves in the family space. So why not that we are able to do that more in the business space? Because then when the people who join the company really believe and feel that in their workplace, they are appreciated, they are loved, and they are appreciated, and they are supported and nurtured for their growth. Then that's when people want to belong to the place longer term, and they would do the things going out of the way to serve the collective mission and purpose.
Yeah. And it's about, like you say, like the whole collective movement. We're better together, we're stronger together, and finding more calling in more like-minded people who want to do the same thing, and want to do something for the greater good. The movement is just going to grow, and people, and I think it is already happening, where these businesses that just look after the bottom line, they're not sustainable, because when the money stops coming in, what do? They've got no reason to carry on operating. Whereas if you've got this collective movement of people who believe in a mission and a vision for a better future through the products and services that you offer, as well as the wider better future, then that creates something really, really powerful. And why wouldn't we want to belong to that? There's just one more thing I want to pick up on, and it's that question, the two words that you mentioned that were pivotal, and I think your career and life is nothing short of pivotal. What if? And the questions, what if, that you have hinged basically the whole of your business upon, and the whole of your life upon, really, that kind of, from leaving Japan, what if I go out somewhere else? And then what if we do things differently? What if things could be different than they already are? Could you just kind of give me your thoughts on those two words, like what if, and the power of those and what they mean to you?
Well, they say that in a day, any average human being makes thousands of decisions every moment. And often many of these decisions we are making is unconscious and automatic, like just as a part of habit, or because just how we live, But the thing is, there were moments where we are able to make conscious decisions about something, right? Like, so this what if is enormously powerful, because just by making different decisions at a different moment, then your life, like the accumulation of those different decisions, is massive.
Yeah.
Because it's like a decisions upon decisions, right? So I think even with a few of the ideas that you wonder, and you choose to give it a go. Instead
Absolutely.
of the
Yeah.
little voice in your head that goes like, oh, what if you fail? What if somebody doesn't like it? So we have every moment this like, oh, what if we did this? And then to go, okay, I'm just going to give it a try.
Yeah.
I'm just going to take action, because if it doesn't work out, that's okay.
Yeah.
But why not, right? Like,
Why
so
not?
yeah, so I think when we make more of the what if questions and take actions from the point of also letting go and being open, there is an enormous opportunity to actually do something that is extraordinary too. So to me, I don't think I will always make the decisions in the right state of mind, but the more I could do, like I could make those decisions through the sense of joy, and rather than sense of obligation, sense
Yeah.
of rationalization, like, and doubt, self-doubt and everything,
Yeah.
then I would be able to live life in a way that's much more fulfilling. Right, like, and the outcome is important, but then outcome is a result of your state of mind. So
Minor
even
action.
though, yeah, in the middle of it, you might not achieve as much in terms of temporary outcome, but if your state of mind is the sense of gratitude and joy and appreciation of where you are at and who you get to work with, and to enjoy that moment, then in the longer run, I totally believe that the outcome is going to happen anyway. But if outcome became the primary focus, and then in the process of it, you are battling, you are kind of putting each other down and fighting for the outcome and who gets it right or wrong, or then even though in the shorter term you seems to be winning in some way, but in the longer run, it's not going to be fulfilling.
Yeah, I totally see what you mean there, and it's going back to those like small actions. It's just flipping the dialogue a little bit, isn't it? So we've done this way the whole time. This is where we're at. What if we looked at something else? And I think even if it's just a prompt to think about ideas, how things might be a little bit different. You might have 10 what if ideas and choose one of them. Because some of them are just not going to work, and you know that from the start. But if you choose one of them and you think, okay, well, actually, I can get on board with that, and there is something I can do every single day, no matter how small, to get towards that, then you've achieved something, haven't you?
Yeah, great. And I think life is like a game, and there are lots of little tricks and useful knowledge and the skills that you can gain. And there are people who are playing at a more advanced level than you are, and then learning from these people, their experiences, their failure, and their successes is very useful for you to kind of get quicker at becoming a master of the game at the level you are at, right? Like, and then you start to play at the new level, like, so it's enjoyable at every level. And there's learning in every level. But then when we think really about the purpose of why we are doing what we do, and the purpose of the whole game itself, which is our life and which is our business, right? And then we realize that actually the purpose is the journey itself. Purpose is actually to enjoy it. So the moment the game is no longer enjoyable, then that's actually the more important part, that we need to pause and reflect. Why is it not enjoyable anymore?
Roll the dice again and see where it takes us. Masami, thank you so much for joining me today. It has been a really beautiful conversation and so enlightening. I would just like you to leave one parting thought with the audience, which would be, if somebody is feeling really out of flow, and I think you might have just answered that with the game, if somebody's feeling really out of flow, how would you suggest they could get back into flow?
Actually, no matter what, there are times that we are not in flow, right? Like even the guru, of guru will probably have a days that they are not in flow.
Yeah.
So first of all, I think when we are out of flow, not being attached to that kind of like having to, or you feel that's bad, like that you're out of flow and you don't feel connected, like, so that makes it harder to get out of it. So feeling okay that some days it's like that, but it will pass, is one thing that we could do. But another thing is that actually we are all connected, and when you need help or a little bit more energy from other people, being able to say, hey, like I feel I need a little bit of help. And then to consciously surround ourselves with people who actually support you, who actually accept you, who actually love you, and who actually okay and accepting of you when you are not the best, but still believe in you and encourages you. And so when we create that surrounding where you are, with people who are positively supportive, then that encourages you on the days that you don't you struggle to be the best version of you. But then the commitment you can make is that you will be that person for others as well.
Yeah, so beautiful. And it's a whole kind of giving circle, isn't it? And that's certainly what you've created with B1G1, a whole community of people who are like-minded, committed to impact and giving, and in the same way have become supportive of each other. And it's beautiful what you've created. I'm such an admirer of you, and I'm really excited to see where you go next and be on that journey with you. So thank you, Masami. I will leave all the details in the comments about B1G1 if anyone wants to find out more and connect with Masami. And there is a webinar coming up next week that your co-founder Paul is giving. I'll leave the details to that as well if anyone wants to go along and see what it's all about. So thanks for joining me, and see you next time.
Thank you, Adele, and thank you for listening as well.
Thank you.